Hey everyone, this is Joseph from PMR Reviews and I will be reviewing one of Xiaomi's latest budget phone, the Redmi 4A. This is actually my first review, so hope you guys like it. If you have not heard of Xiaomi, it is a Chinese company that has risen to popularity as a result of their budget smartphone lineup. No surprise there, and the Redmi 4A is the cheapest that Xiaomi has to offer for this recent November release. Now, the 4A consists of a Snapdragon 425, a 13 megapixel rear camera, a 5 megapixel front camera, a 5-inch IPS LCD HD display, 16GB eMMC storage, and 2GB RAM. Without any further delays, let's dive into each individual component. Now, the build quality of the phone is certainly something that I like. It is pleasing to see a budget smartphone having an aluminum chassis instead of a plastic one. The 4A has a sturdy, yet lightweight build that is very comfortable to hold with one hand. As for the design, it is rather straightforward and conventional. The volume buttons and lock buttons are on the right side, and it uses capacitive touch buttons at the bottom bezel. My only gripe is the speaker placement, which is at the back of the phone, such that when you're using it, not only is the sound being fired away from you, when you place it flat on a table, it will sound muffled. This is rather disappointing, but other than that, the design is practical and inoffensive. Now, the processor for the Snapdragon 425 is a quad-core 1.4 GHz Cortex-A53 CPU. The Cortex-A53, to be succinct, is a low-powered processor that is battery efficient. I used the PC Mark benchmarking tool and compared its scores to four other phones: the Motorola Moto X Play, the Vodafone Ultra 7, the Sony Xperia M5, and the Samsung Galaxy S5. They all belong to a similar category as the Redmi 4A, with the exception of the Samsung Galaxy S5, which I thought would be an interesting comparison, an old flagship versus a recent budget smartphone. Based on specs alone, our Redmi 4A here is seemingly losing out to competition, but you see, different companies optimize the hardware differently. We can see from the test results that the 4A's ability to browse web pages and deal with large amounts of data actually topped the list, with its capacity to write and edit documents coming in at a close second. However, its video and photo editing capabilities are just not up to par, and I think this can be attributed to its GPU, but more on that later. Overall, as you can see, the UI is very responsive. There's not much lag when navigating through home screens and system applications. However, its application launch times aren't the fastest, but honestly, for this price range, I think it is more than reasonable. Applications take a few short seconds to load, and it is far from antagonizing. Also, with 2GB worth of RAM, the OS is a bit more aggressive in clearing background processes, and idle apps have to be reloaded after a period of inactivity. Now, the graphics sector for the Redmi is perhaps its weakest aspect. As foreshadowed before, from the table, it is not hard to see that it just got swept over, losing in almost every category. I've tried some mid-level games such as Asphalt 8, and while it was playable at an estimated 30 frames per second or so, it just wasn't very smooth. Luckily, light games such as Clash Royale and Cut the Rope work without a hitch. I think casual users will find this phone to be of an uncompromised performance while maintaining a low price, but mobile gamers probably will not. Moving on to the operating system and user interface, Redmi 4A runs MIUI 8.0. which is based on Android 6, and not surprisingly, there are a lot of resemblance with iOS, as with many other Chinese manufacturers. You can see from the home screen layout that it is already some sort of a replica of the iPhones, namely the rounded-off square icons, the lack of an app drawer, and even the spacing between icons. But what I really want to talk about, however, are the vibes and features that Xiaomi tries to implement through the UI. The company tries to set up a playful vibe through the use of pastel colors and animations. You can already see here that the main layout uses pastel colors. The background, the system icons such as calendar, notes, contacts, weather, gallery, just lots of uses. There are also a lot of light-hearted animations that help deviate it from the sleek utilitarian stock Android feel. For example, upon unlocking the home screen, the home screen icons will appear and jiggle a little, as if they're acknowledging your entry. The animations are not unique to MIUI, but how Xiaomi implements it feels unrushed and calm, but at the same time less speedy when compared to Samsung's TouchWiz or Oneplus's Oxygen OS. Now, MIUI 8.0 also adds a few handy features such as Duo Apps, which is the ability to install two of the same applications, so you can have, for example, two WhatsApp accounts on the same phone. There is also Duo Space, which is essentially creating a separate account on your phone, so you can have your work phone and a personal phone all within the Redmi. These two really expand the usability of its Duo SIM functions. There is also one-handed mode that I really love. Here's how it works. It shrinks the display to either the bottom right or the bottom left, and it makes it really easy for your thumb to reach all four corners. I feel Xiaomi has implemented a lot of useful functions within MIUI that help boost user experience, and I personally have enjoyed using this phone. Transitioning to the display, it has a screen resolution of 1280 by 720 pixels, which puts it at about 294 pixels per inch, just a tad shy of Apple's definition of Retina display, which is 300 pixels per inch or more. However, it is still plenty clear to me, and the pixels are faintly noticeable only when you look at them very closely. The colors are vibrant, and it works quite well. I'm not sure if you can see this, but the display has a bit of depth from the front glass panel, and what this does is it increases reflections and thus reduces viewing angles. Now, as far as brightness goes, contents are viewable under direct sunlight, but colors and contrast gets very limited, so it might not be that good when you want to browse Instagram pictures out on the streets. Finally, we arrive at the camera section. Before I go any further, I want to note that when you open the camera app, what the phone renders on the display will look much worse than the actual picture. I believe this is due to the weaker graphics capability on this phone. It is unable to render in real time what the camera is seeing, but I assure you the pictures will look much better than what it seems to be. To test the cameras, we can simply jump straight to analyzing the pictures that the Redmi took. Starting off with the selfie camera, this is a picture of me wearing this channel's most prized flagship, the Beyerdynamic T1. We love this pair of headphones. In any case, you can see that it is not the sharpest looking photo. It'll take selfies, but it probably won't make you look glamorous. The rear camera, however, is more promising. I've prepared a few shots in order to assess the different aspects of this phone. The first picture is one of a fire hydrant in broad daylight, and as shown, the Redmi 4A is able to put up a decent shot. However, there are still obvious flaws. The iPhone 6s has more vibrant colors with better dynamics. The fire hydrant on the Redmi looks a bit faded and less saturated. Also, in general, the color of the grass and plants around are not as natural as those on the iPhone. Detail retrieval is also noticeably weaker on the Redmi 4A. This is apparent especially in the pavement where the concrete looks kind of washed over. In any case, the Redmi did quite a decent job over here to the extent that I was pleasantly surprised. We see similar results here in a more indoor but still well-lit environment. The Redmi is able to provide a decent picture, but the iPhone is able to provide a brighter image along with better color reproduction. The Redmi once again lacks detail on the clay pot when compared to the iPhones, but nothing too drastic. Overall, with ample lighting, Xiaomi's latest budget smartphone is able to perform quite well, especially for its price point. Now, moving on to low-light surroundings, the Redmi 4A starts to perform noticeably worse. This picture was taken in my bedroom with only one lamp in the corner. The colors have almost faded away and it looks nothing like the picture taken by the iPhone. The bedsheet has lost its orange color and everything seems dull. There is also noticeable increase in noise in the photo, and overall it looks a lot grainier than the iPhones, which is already grainy. Moving on to this row of houses at night, dimly lit by street lamps, the Redmi's performance is also lackluster. Everything seems dull with a lot of noise throughout the photo. The iPhone is much brighter and has more detail. The Redmi is performing noticeably worse when compared to the iPhone in low light shots, and it will not be taking very great night photos if you do decide to get this phone. However, I do think the camera is quite decent for this price, and I have seen many other budget smartphones whose cameras are just outright atrocious. With good lighting, the Redmi 4A is still capable of taking good photos. Amongst other things, we have covered most of the major aspects of this phone. However, there are still minor aspects that I feel can affect the usability and our good knowledge. The Redmi 4A has an IR blaster, and its inbuilt Mi Remote app works very well with both of my televisions. The audio quality coming out of the headphone jack isn't very good, but you can enable the sound enhancer system options in the system settings, and I highly recommend it. It makes it sound less congested and gives some energy up in the treble region. This phone also does not work well with all the LTE bands in the US, but all 3G bands should work, so do make sure to check your carrier's compatibility. It is also only able to connect to 2.4 GHz Wi-Fi connections. Its download speeds aren't as fast as flagship phones. However, it is nothing to really complain about. It is still quite okay. In a conclusion, the Redmi 4A, while it isn't going to replace flagship smartphones, it can certainly satisfy many casual users. Its processor is very capable at completing everyday tasks and making the whole phone feel fluid. Even though the graphics aspect may put off mobile gamers, it is able to play light games with ease and play videos without a hitch. It also has a very amiable UI with useful functions, along with relatively sharp and vivid display. Its camera takes surprisingly good photos with adequate lighting, but fares very poorly in low light conditions. To me, the Redmi 4A is as basic as smartphones go. At a sub $100 price range, it has the necessary features and proper hardware to provide a complete experience that is fit for the 21st century. It truly is one of the best bang for your buck and sets a high standard for what a budget smartphone can do. Thank you all for watching and hope you guys enjoyed the review. This is Joseph signing out.